people are believing things that ChatGPT is telling them to be true when it's not. For example, there was another case in the United States where a man actually ended up killing his 83-year-old mother because ChatGPT was validating his paranoia and his delusions, and he ended up believing that the printer in his house was spying on him, and that his mother was monitoring him, and that his friend was trying to poison him. So this is very, very dangerous. And the thing is, these tools have been released without any regulation, any safety, and it's almost as if we're the guinea pigs and it's being tested on us. And now the regulation has started. So we need to be cognizant of the risks. But the thing is, the founders of these tech companies, I think it was Sam Altman, who's the CEO of OpenAI, he himself said that, we need to ensure that AI benefits all of humanity, and, that it's built on human values. And that's really what we need to consider, is how we can utilize it to maximize its benefits whilst mitigating its risks. I agree with you, Dr. Ismail, that, you're pro-AI, I'm also pro-AI. And you're pro-regulation, I'm also pro-regulation. Yeah. But the thing is, there has to be a balance. The thing is that I've heard of the argument that, safety stifles innovation. And as a, content creator myself, I feel that, and I can resonate with that. But at the end of the day, as Sam Altman said, right, the tech creators themselves are warning about this. And he said that we should use and create AI for the benefit of humanity. So if the purpose is for the benefit of humanity, then we should be putting humanity first. We should be prioritizing their safety and not risking it, right? So with deep fake these days, anyone can make it, anyone can spread it, and it can go, viral. And I think this should not be allowed at all. It should be criminalized. You have laws against, you have privacy laws, you have copyright laws. So based on that, there should be a law against just creating a deep fake and spreading it. And the harm is so much, because there was a Spanish town in 2023 where there was 20 girls, and this was a scandal which went through that town. 20 girls, they were fully clothed, and they put their pictures on social media, just as people do, as you all do, right? You put your clothes. And what happened is somebody took all of their pictures from social media, they took off all their clothes, and they basically spread that all over the town and online, right? And these were 11 to 17-year-old girls. So this is deeply harmful, and this is invasion of privacy, and this should be illegal, and it should not be allowed to clone somebody else and use a deep fake. But also, human life and human safety shouldn't be sacrificed for profit or for innovation. We can have innovation, but we can put the safeguards in its place as well. In the EU, there was GDPR rules placed fairly recently, and I remember when those came in, everyone was cautious, because they were like, we have to protect everyone's data, otherwise we'll get fined. And the fines were very, very, very heavy. There were a lot of punishment, and that needs to be the same with AI now, because with GDPR you can be fined up to $20 million. Your reputation, you have to publicly announce it as well if there's like a data leak, so that harms the reputation. So the tech companies do need to be held accountable, otherwise, and the thing is, look, with medicine, what happens is they're regulated first, and there's checks and tests, and then they're released to the public, right? And that's the same with food and many other things. They go through testing. So why is it that we're treating AI differently? It's like we're being the testing ground, and now they're bringing in the laws and regulation, the safety features. When one of these suicides that I mentioned earlier, when this happened, then the OpenAI and these tech companies, they started consulting with mental health charities, and they started consulting with the families and things like that. It's like putting the cart before the horse. The horse is already bolted, and now you're bringing in the safety features. It's the wrong way around. So I do also say that maybe we should rethink things and go as far to the extent of maybe even pausing it. Because Elon Musk, when he had a bit more moderate views like 2-3 years ago, even he said at the time that it's developing so quickly that maybe we need to put a pause on AI development, especially when it's literally led to the deaths of people. Right? I mean, that's where you have to draw the line at some point. So there does need to be regulation. There does need to be safeguards put in place. And I don't think that's going to stifle innovation, because we have these same regulations in all other industries. Yeah, if I can just add to that, yeah, the issue is global, and we do need people, like you were saying, if scientists are there, then they can make sure that innovation isn't stifled. One solution which experts themselves are pushing for is that there should be an international regulatory body, like we have the IAEA, we have WHO, the World Health Organization, we have EMA, which is the European Medicines Agency. So just in that same way that they exist to regulate those industries, there can be, or there should be, an international body to get together to regulate AI. Because, again, we've spoken about the risks. I just want to quote Geoffrey Hinton, who's considered the godfather of AI. He's actually compared it to nuclear energy, AI and tech, and he said that he's worried about, a Chernobyl moment with AI. So that is one thing that I think should be looked into very, very quickly, to have this international body. And also with deep fakes, like there should be a license or some kind of like approval mechanism that you have a license to make deep fakes, rather than just anyone willy-nilly making it.
What are examples of technology safeguards that you think that we should aim for to counter the spread of deepfakes and synthetic content?
Yeah, I think the thing about watermarking, I think, is it's a good first step, but it's ineffective because, as has been mentioned as well, that there's two types, which is the visible one and the one within the deepfake, the metadata. And I think both are easily removable. The irony is, when I was looking into this, AI itself suggested an AI tool to remove the watermark. Right, and the thing is, if you do a visible one, then that can just be very easily cropped out. Anyone can do that, and you don't want to put it on the whole thing, because then that defeats the purpose, right, of creating something. If you've got a watermark on the entire thing, and also like sometimes just uploading it to another platform can remove the watermark from the metadata. So that is ineffective, but I think the EU is actually mandating it because it is a good first layer of security. But another thing is that I think algorithms are very dangerous as well right now, because if you look at X's algorithm, and even like Grok or other chatbots, they have a bias, and a very clear bias. And Grok, actually, a few months ago, it was pushing out very conspiracy theories, far-right content. It was making, it actually called an MP a rape apologist, or a rape enabler, actually, because there was a whole grooming gang scandal in the UK, and it basically called an MP that, which is defamatory, right? And this is AI doing it. And so one thing which needs to be done is algorithms need to be made more transparent. So there's accountability with tech platforms. And also another idea is actually, the whole point is to serve the user, the audience. So algorithms should be an option, or really it should be democratized. The power and control should be given back to the user, and the user should be able to design their own algorithm. Because it's not fair that you are on X or any other platform, and you're there for news or you're there for education, and instead what's being pushed into your face is far-right content, extremist content, hate material. And there was a study done by Sky News, actually, which showed that they opened up 5 new accounts, and they showed that just the new accounts, right, they showed that 50% of the content that they were seeing on their feeds was extremist content, hateful content, which is inciting violence. So we know that there are biases in these algorithms, and that needs to be kind of made transparent, what the algorithm is. And the more kind of accountability there is, the safer then the user can be. There shouldn't be that these tools are serving the tech companies or for profit. It should be that they're going back to the user. That is why they were initially created. The tech companies, social media companies, they already have some kinds of regulations built in. So, for example, for analyst news, when we upload, because we deal with countering far-right content or violent hate speech, and so sometimes when we upload to TikTok a news piece, sometimes it identifies that as hate speech, and they already have automatic mechanisms where it automatically detects that and takes it down or blocks it before it actually gets uploaded within minutes sometimes. And then we see it, and then we have to appeal it. And then when we appeal it, then it's checked manually, and then it's put back on, which I think is very good and fair.
Yep.
Yeah,
Very good.
it's
Very good.
so as a creator, it's a bit frustrating, but I understand that it's for the public safety, for the greater good, and that means that they can detect automatically harmful content and then take it down, and then it's fine. If you can appeal it, then it goes back up, so there's no issue. And the thing is, there's another deepfake pornography is becoming a huge issue, and it's being spread and being sold by some platforms. And this can be detected and this can be taken down, but the argument is because now the deepfake pornography is being created is just artificial. It's not being based on other people. It's just, and the argument is that, oh, because it's fake, then it's fine to do. And some of it's child pornography as well, but that doesn't make any sense because anyone who's going to go and consume that content, it means that they have appetite for that, and then they might do it in real life. So the argument doesn't, it's a sign of a sick, depraved person, right? But these are the kind of the arguments that they do to try to get around it. But just on, a more basic level, I do feel there needs to be more signposting and reminders. Because I'll give you my own example, right? I created a documentary recently, and I used some AI imagery to illustrate the documentary, to make it more visual, to make it more interesting, because you need to do that. You don't always have access. I can't always go to film some places, but I want to illustrate and make it visually appealing, so I used some. When I went back and I looked through the safety checks and what I need to, find to finalize it, I realized that I hadn't actually labeled it as AI generated or, for illustration purposes only. Because as a creator, even if you're like a genuine creator who's not looking to do any disorder, you forget things. You're more focused on making your content. So, but I haven't seen anything like, this Creative Commons licenses. Whenever you download a Creative Commons license, it has some rules that you can't adapt it, you can't use it for commercial purposes. There's certain limitations of how you can use it. So at least if the tech companies or whichever tool you've created the AI generated material, at least if when you've downloaded it, they say, remember that you need to attribute this, you need to signpost it, you need to do, that would go a long way. Because even when there's genuine creators, they might forget, they might not know. And so people just are not aware of the dangers. Children need to be protected in particular. And actually Australia, I'm sure most of you know, Australia have implemented a social media ban. I don't know what the other panelists think, but I'm for it. Because I think what it is now, they have to be, is an age verification. Under 16s will not be allowed on social media. And it remains to be seen how it's enforced and whether it's effective or not. But basically, I think that children should not have phones that early. They should not be using AI tools that early. They should not be on social media that early because their minds are just developing and they are being exposed to harmful, violent, extremist rhetoric. And there's a lot of risk of radicalization. This is the age where those seeds, negative seeds, are implanted and developed. So I do think that it's a good ban, and I do think there's parents also need to be responsible for not giving phones early as well, because if you look at the studies, it shows that early phone use, before the age of 12 or 14, it impacts children's mental health. It leads to obesity, it leads to depression, it leads to insomnia. So children's mental health is being harmed by this. And, we're having that a kind of a mental health pandemic. And also another, angle on this is that, what is the purpose of like chatbots and AI? We weren't told what the purpose is. I don't think we were told. And basically some people are using it for research, some people are using it for writing, some people are using it for a second brain. But you know what the number one reason people are using it for? I don't think you will ever guess. Harvard actually did a study and basically found that the number one reason people are using ChatGPT and these kind of tools is for therapy and for companionship. They are using something which has no actual emotion. It mimics emotion, but it has no actual emotion to kind of confide in and be reassured by. And that itself has many risks because, there's been so many incidents and cases of people saying that they are having romantic relationships with ChatGPT or, there's one AI chatbot called Soulmate. And people have like falling in love with it and having relationships and even marrying it, right? They were, ChatGPT would be telling them, oh, we're going down the aisle now, we're getting married, right? So it's actually become quite ludicrous. And the crazy thing is that Soulmate was actually shut down because the company was bought and then they decided to shut it down. And basically what happened was the people who were using it, they actually felt grief. They felt heartbreak as you would in a real relationship. And then people are having rebound relationships with ChatGPT. So that's why I think children shouldn't be exposed to this that early on, and there should be some kind of training or some kind of module or something, whether that's in schools, mandated training, which I'm sure we'll get onto, before children or anyone is allowed to use AI. Yeah, I just want to take the perspective of three stakeholders, the education sector, youth, and also religion, which we haven't actually spoken about, which is actually very interesting. But in the terms of education, I think AI should be used, like we've mentioned, as a tool, but not as the first brain, because what's happening now is people are just writing the entire essays on ChatGPT and then just publishing or sending it. And I can very quickly spot, because it's very cliched sometimes. And MIT did some research where they got a group of people and they got them to write an essay. One was allowed to use ChatGPT, one was allowed to use only Google search, and one was allowed to use only their brains. And what they found is the ones who used their brains, they had really original, thoughtful, interesting contributions, and their brains were engaged. And the ones who used ChatGPT, the examiners described their essays as soulless, and their brains were engaged, and they were all the same types of essays. And the ones with Google, who used just Google, they were the same as the ones who just used the brain. And they found that when they got them to rewrite that essay, the ones which used ChatGPT, they couldn't remember their own essay, most of them. And the ones who used just their brains, they said they were now allowed to use ChatGPT to rewrite it. The ones who had originally used their brains and now they use ChatGPT, their essays were even better. So what that shows is that if you use it responsibly as a second brain to supplement your research, then it's really useful. But if you only rely on it, because the same study showed that the people who only relied on ChatGPT over the course of time, it affected their cognitive ability, and they just resorted to copy and pasting. So I think in education sectors, because what I'm also hearing from some teachers is that children are now, because of AI, having disrespect of traditional learning methods. And they're even saying to the teacher, oh, AI is going to replace your job, so why should we listen to you? And if you look at the tech gurus, they actually don't give their own children iPads. They it's better if they learn poetry and critical thinking beforehand, because this is a very crucial age. So because otherwise what will happen is you're going to have a class system where the people who are using too much ChatGPT or AI, they're going to become less intelligent over the course of the years, and the people who are using traditional methods of education, they'll be more intelligent. So, and then with the youth, I think it's just very, very important to give youth opportunities, to give them volunteering, and so that they're not just doom scrolling or they're just not relying on ChatGPT for comfort or reassurance. We need to have a whole kind of society effort on that. The other point was about religion. I'm hearing from some imams who are actually raising alarm bells that people are going to ChatGPT for religious guidance, and ChatGPT is not giving them the complete picture, because often religious guidance has to be nuanced. It's very complicated sometimes, and it has to be personalized. It depends on time and place. And what I've heard from them is that sometimes it gives guidance which is very black and white, or it's not nuanced, or it doesn't give the caveats which religion often has. Or sometimes what it does is says, oh, but the Bible says you can't do this, but I'm not going to judge you, you can whatever makes you happy. But an imam isn't going to say, well, do whatever makes you happy. Religion is about self-control, regulating your emotions and your passions and discipline. But if ChatGPT is just affirming everything, then that's also very, very dangerous. So I do think that it is a multifaceted approach that's needed. And if we all do get together and do this, then, we can continue innovating, and technology can continue to advance our lives and improve our workflows and our structures, while maintaining responsibility and safety as well.